live in Perrysburg, Ohio. That's where I am. I'm in Perrysburg, Ohio. I'm in Ohio visiting my dad, and this is where we're staying. It's about 20, 25 minutes from my hometown of Genoa, where I grew up. Dawn came with me. This was her first time meeting my dad, so we got to see him last night. We're spending the weekend here and coming back on Tuesday. So you get me here in the hotel room doing the podcast today, and on Monday, same thing. We'll try to do, about the usual time that we do it based on Arizona time at 9 o'clock. So it's noon time here. Already saw my dad this morning, had nice breakfast, and now back at the hotel doing this. We do the same things. That Dawn and I do the same fucking things that we do at home that we do when we go someplace and travel wherever it is for whatever it's for, whether that be for a sporting event, a concert, workcation, because that's the other thing that we do. We work, or I do. I work almost every day of the year, and I don't really take any days off. And I'm blessed to be able to do that. It's a beautiful thing, and I thank all my clients for the beautiful life and my ability to be able to do that just anywhere. It's just when you have a business like that, it's not for everyone, but it is definitely for me. I'll put it that way. It's definitely for me. Definite fit. This is the best lighting I got. I set up. I do bring my microphone and shit and get set up and try to do that. Maybe we'll add some other things because this is a thing from time to time that we do this, just because that. That's it. We know that I'm going to be traveling. That's what happens. So let me a little bit about the trip so far. We flew from Phoenix here. We had no problem at the airport whatsoever with TSA, with security getting through. We did our bags. We were already checked in prior to that online. So we dropped our bags at the curb. We walked in, we went to the security line, and we were. Even if we wouldn't have been using priority, which we had priority because we were flying first class on Delta, which like literally there was nobody in front of us. And then I think when we went through the scanning right after we got through, there was maybe three people in front of us in the line that we were in. Very, very short. Dawn always gets stopped. I don't know. She tries not to. I don't know why. But they were all there doing their jobs, and I'm glad they're able to do it. I'm grateful for them and keeping us safe and wish them well. And we want them to be paid. And I guess they're being paid now. I don't know. Has anybody else heard about that? What's happened since Trump decided to sign an executive order and get the TSA people paid? I'll keep repeating this over and over again, that no person in Congress, Republican or Democrat, whenever this shit is pulled, okay, it's incumbent on both parties. You're there to work for us. What you need to do is you don't get paid and your staff doesn't get paid. Because if you don't get paid, you guys are all crooks. So you've made enough money up to this point that usually it won't be a personal issue for you if you don't get some paychecks, but it would for your staff. So your staff shouldn't get paid either. If there's any department shut down and government workers are not getting paid, you should not get paid. Hey, welcome to the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy. And this is one of the times I get to see the comments. So, Issa Girl, welcome to the podcast. Check out the other videos that we have up. Check out, we talk a little bit about everything. We talk about things that interest me. That's basically what I do. When we do interviews with people that I'm interested in or topics that I'm interested in. And that's just what it's about. It's just about me being me, and you guys do your thing. And haters are welcome in the chat as well. I don't have a MAGA hat today to like piss anybody off, but um, so we're skipping that part today. But I'm sure I can piss somebody off at some point. That's okay. Everybody's welcome. This is a great country. We do not have a king in this country. And if we did have a fucking king in this country, people wouldn't be able to protest and say all the dumb shit that they fucking say. So that's proof enough for me that we don't have a king. Um, so the trip, like I was saying, like TSA was just great. But going through all that, I'm sure was difficult for those folks. How many people? A lot of people can't miss 2 or 3 checks. It's just not something they can do. I mean, we know that some people are a paycheck away, and that has to be acknowledged. That these people, that TSA agents, they make decent money, but it's not like they're making such big money that they can miss paychecks. That's not a thing. And they have families and children and stuff too. So I really think that the pressure should be on Congress to not get paid, and their staff until the TSA agents get paid or whatever department is not being funded at the time. That would force these guys to really sit down and work shit out. And sometimes shit it's worked out in ways that both sides hate it. We're probably going to hate the results of what's coming up too, but that's just how it works. It's ugly to see legislation made, and they're too often than not, they throw in the towel, and that's whatever has to be done. So look, the trip, the plane, my God, worst smelling fucking bathroom I've ever been on in a plane. And this was in the first class section. So, it's not like a lot of people were using it. I don't know if the bathroom, restroom didn't get cleaned, but it just smelled like the whole thing had been pissed on. Like somebody took their dick out and whipped it and pissed all over the place. That's literally what it smelled like in there. So that was a little rough. That wasn't great. But the trip was again pretty much easy, and we appreciate the TSA agents. So getting here, fly into Detroit when I come home to Toledo, Ohio area. I grew up in a small town called Genoa, just outside of Toledo, about 200 people. So look, when we do that, we don't fly into Toledo. There's not just a lot of action at Toledo. We fly into Detroit. It's about a 45 to 50-minute drive then to where we go in Ohio from the Detroit airport. And really, everything on that end went smoothly. I took Dawn to a great place here in Maumee. We're going to give a shout out to the Village Idiot. The Village Idiot, to me, I've eaten pizza all across this great country because I like fucking pizza. And the Village Idiot, to me, has the best pizza of anywhere I've ever had pizza. And they're quick. It's just a bank that was turned into a bar. And Mike, yeah, did they spare Dawn's luggage this time? Dawn's luggage, we didn't get it cleaned. It still looks like shit. So it's still dirty from the last time. I can't believe how it looks like they set the luggage in oil. But that was American Airlines that did that. So we went to this place called the Village Idiot. I was able to take there for late lunch, early dinner, and she enjoyed that. They have live music 7 nights a week, and just a cool little bar. I did post a little video on, I think, Reels on IG and TikTok if you want to check that out. We have a lot more of our JT. Hi, man. We have a lot more video clips. We have Mikey G that's been added to the show, and Leo's been with me from day one in doing this, and I'm grateful for Leo for being there and helping us put this together. And we keep striving, guys, to do a better and better show. I'm trying to continue to do um I'm trying to do, a better myself. I know that that's where it's at. It's in the content and the things that we talk about, and it's a packed area now. I waited too long to do a podcast, but that would just be an excuse. I've started the podcast when I started it. I did radio years ago, 4 hours of radio every morning, and did a 4 hour talk show. So, it's not like I'm not experienced at this and don't know what I'm doing. It's just, building something from the ground up when you are not famous to begin with. It takes work. It seriously takes work. And the great podcasters that you see today, um, you know, the great podcasts you see today, they all took 4 or 5 years before things really started to hit for them. And all of a sudden, maybe in year 3 and 4, they had 100,000 subscribers, and then all of a sudden in year 5 it hits, and boom, they got 100,000 new subscribers in just 3 months, what it took them 4 years to do. And that's just the business. And if you're willing to do that, and a lot of people aren't willing to do that. I put a lot into this and in this show, and we don't have cheap equipment. I know people think that equipment should be even more expensive, so people like me couldn't afford to do it. That's what some of the haters think, but you can't stop me, and I'm not going to stop. I don't care about somebody's opinion. If you don't like the show, that's okay too. This isn't for everybody. It's just for the people that it's for, and it'll find its way there. And I just have that belief, and that's how I built 2 7-figure businesses. I don't know about building a 10-figure business. I haven't done that. I'm trying to do that now. So I can't help somebody do that, but I can help somebody and help people in a process of getting to the bottom of the 1%, as I call it. And, with whatever your background is, I believe it's something anybody can do, is get to that bottom of the 1%. And that's what I'm showing. I'm not trying to show off. I don't need to do that. I don't care what people think about it. But, it is a certain life. It is a certain lifestyle. And it's a life and lifestyle that I like. And I've been sharing with a lot of people. Again, it's just come up. I've been sharing with a lot of people about The Secret. The Secret is something that, I ingrained myself in a number of years ago. I watched and listened to The Secret every day for 30 days and really got it ingrained in me. And so that, that's kind of the way that I approach the world every single day. And sometimes I do better at it than others, but it's a way to live intentionally and a grateful mindset. And that universe that's talked about in The Secret is God for me. It can be whatever you need it to be for you. That's up for you to decide. But for me, it definitely is God. And I think God wants people who are believers to be abundant, to be able to have abundance and share that abundance and share their experiences. And that's my thing is seriously this. My thing is that you should oh, Thad, hey, how are you, man? So yeah, I get to see these now. It's so funny. I don't usually get to see these right away when we do the podcast from the studio. Oh, and Mike, back up. Just because someone doesn't do it does it first doesn't mean they did it best. No, but there's some good first ones out there, like Joe Rogan, and I like Tom Ballou. I like TP or PBD, the Patrick Bet David podcast. There's some good ones out there for sure, but it doesn't mean it's done. It doesn't mean nobody else can do it or nobody else can build it. It's like when I did investments, it was great if you bought Microsoft stock when Microsoft stock came out. It was also great when you bought Microsoft stock after the crash in 2008 and 2009 too. So just because something's been around for a while doesn't mean you can't still make money in it. But yeah, I just getting back to what I believe and in The Secret, I just believe that people that have faith, this is not something that's going to hinder their faith. I think that we all have the same purpose, and that's a little bit different take than some people have, and that is that we all are to serve others. That's what our purpose is. Now, what the difference is, our mission is what I think is different, not our purpose. our mission, and our mission is to, whatever it is, to help people in whatever way we can. And for some people that might be guidance. When I was a financial advisor, guidance with investments. Now it's, what I do is guidance with health, guidance with testosterone replacement therapy and things like that. And weight loss. The weight loss is a huge part of what I do, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be able to do that and help so many people and lose so much weight and turn their lives around and change their lives. When you get to be a part about changing people's lives, it's just so cool. And that's what I get to do nowadays. So I do that, and I do this. And this is not just a side thing that I do. It's not something that I do directly to support the business. This is its own little animal, and I treat it like that. And, we've created a company here, Outlaw Apostle Productions, and we're gonna see where we can take this into the future and bringing this content to as many people that are interested in it. That's what the goal is. And again, it's sharing my experiences and my own truth, what I've actually lived, and that's not something that people can really that's not something people can really argue with. And Mike asked, when did I start applying the secret to my life? I used parts of the secret, and I think most people who learn the secret will see that you've done some of the things in the secret, which is the law of attraction. You've maybe done some of those things in your life, but not always intentionally. And looking back now that I understand the secret, that is something that I did. And I actually really started applying it a little, probably 11 years ago or so. And it was a CEO of the supplement company that I've done business with and been a rep for. The CEO challenged me to do watch and listen to it for 30 days, and I did. And it had been around for a minute. It had been around almost for a decade. Early 2000s is when the book came out, and then the documentary. And you can, if you want to read the book or listen to the book on Audible, that's great too. But just the documentary is fantastic. So you can really do that. Yeah, Bob. Yeah, we're not always supposed to know. Sometimes we find out later, and sometimes we don't find out at all. So yeah, that's absolutely true. So I started then applying the secret intentionally in my life. And I can't say I'm perfect at it, even after all these years. I just realized by just watching it again with Dawn that I picked up a few things where that I'm thinking about, okay, this is what's going on in my life, and I'm the one that's bringing that into my life. And most of what I bring into my life, I'm manifesting, are very good, very positive things. But it can be anything. It can be anything that might be it for you. So hey, we got somebody that's studying in Korea. That just is crazy. I love that. Thank you so much for joining us, and hit that follow, subscribe button. I'm a student studying in Korea. It feels like the uncertainty about the future is holding me back. Do you have any advice for me? Actually, I do. And, I am an old man. I just turned 58 years old. And so I've been around the block. I know some shit. I've been through a lot of shit. And we all have our own stories, and I have mine. We all feel like we could write a book or a movie, right? And we all probably could. What I have advice, especially for younger people, is there's two different economies. There is the economy that is, the general economy, and then there's your personal economy. And the general economy can be bad, but your personal economy can be very good. I've had some of the best times financially when the general economy was shit. Well, that's the same thing in life as well. You have general world life shit that's going on. And most of the time, that shit you don't have control of. And then you have your personal life. So things can feel uncertain about the future and where things are going. But the thing about the applying and using the secret is you're not going to focus on that. You're not going to focus on worries. You don't focus on things that you can't control. You focus on things you can control and what you can do about it in a positive way. And the things that you focus on, whether they're good or bad, is what you're going to get more of. So if you're worried about the future, you're going to get more worried. You're going to become more anxious about it because that's what you're thinking about. If you start thinking about today, which is all you have control of is today, then you're going to understand that you do have control of that. It is just today, what you do, how you respond. And by focusing on that, the other stuff will happen. Whether you can do anything about it or not, it'll just happen. But the stuff in your own life, you know, you got to plan for the future, but live for today and make the most of each day. And I got to tell you, at 58 years old, I feel that pressure like I've never felt that pressure before. And I've shared this with the audience a number of times that, I just when you get to this age and you have few people that have died in your life already, and then quite a number more feel like dying, have died, and you just realize, like, wow, you might be taking life for granted, and you got to live in the now to get as much as you can done in the now, and that's what I try to do, and sometimes I do too much. And my body lets me know, and God lets me know sometimes when I need to take a rest. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, I'd really suggest right now you can find The Secret, the documentary. There's a bunch of different ones on YouTube, but the actual original The Secret movie you can get on Amazon or on Prime for like 3.99 or 4.99. You can rent it. And I'd suggest doing that. And I just suggest I've been suggesting that a lot again. I seem to go in streaks of doing that and giving young people that enter my life. And I like being a mentor and just tell them, like, look, especially if I see a young person that seems to be giving a lot of effort and not, I know the young generation gets a lot of shit. I give them a lot of shit. But when I come across good people and good young people, I do like to share that because I wish I had known about The Secret long, long ago. I wish I'd have learned about it in my 20s. And anything you are right to think about what's holding you back, because whatever is holding us back is something we created that ceiling. That's what we thought our limit was. And what made us think that that was our limit? Why can't we do something bigger or greater than that? And I met somebody a number of years ago, I don't know, 4 5 years ago maybe now, that he really opened my eyes, and where I we had a couple-hour discussion, and this person went from being an influence to a community and a group of people surrounding him to start making an impact, across the country, in just bigger numbers and the things he was doing. He got involved in even well, he was a fitness guy, and he got involved with CT Fletcher, and they would go and visit military bases, overseas when we had guys in Afghanistan and shit like that. And so they would go over there and visit and, do shit with them, just like other celebrities do, or, musical artists sometimes. I think that's fantastic. But he just his purpose, he just made me realize I was thinking too small. I was thinking too small. But where I came up from and how I grew up, I didn't have a lot of that. I didn't see somebody with a path really that showed me a bigger way, that and the results I was getting were pretty good, and were pretty good for the Toledo area, and building a high six-figure income, living in a 5,800 square foot house, pretty much doing the things that I wanted, before I lost it all and had to start over. And at that level, and that felt pretty good. And like I said, the bottom of the 1%, this is not my first time at the bottom of the 1%. And that life, once you get there and seeing what you can have and what you can do now, maybe everybody doesn't want that, you know I personally, I do. I enjoy being able to live a certain way and do certain things, but I've also earned it in being able to do that. It's, not something that happened overnight. It's something that I've done, over years, a couple different times now, but I have latched on at different times in my life to mentors that, had something that I wanted, and it started in when I was 18, 19 years old in the retail business. I thought I was going to do retail for for the rest of my life and be a big general manager of a store. And, I got up to be an assistant manager of a big store that did millions of dollars in business every year at a very, very young age. But, that's what I thought I was going to do. And I got to that level by, hooking up with somebody that I saw that was successful and learning from him to do the things that he did to actually get to that position. And I started to do those things, you know. So even if you can't see immediately that there might be a mentor there, nowadays you have so many choices, even though you're not really just talking to someone, like, face to face, it can feel like you have a mentor when, because of online and because of the people that share. Alex Hormozy is just a phenomenal business man, in his mid 30s, just has done phenomenal things. And, over the past few years, I've learned a great number of things from him. So even though I don't have him as a personal mentor, where I'm paying him for some type of mentorship or for time to be able to get to talk to him, I still have benefited from him more than he probably realizes it, because people probably tell him all the time. But even at a level where I'm not paying him, he's still somebody that's been an influence for me, that, I've learned some great business things, and, or cemented other business things. Oh, I thought things were this way, and it's confirmed, because he's done bigger things than I have. At 35, he's done bigger things than I've done at 58. So, I acknowledge that kind of stuff. I'm not insecure about that stuff. I am where I am, and I'm good with that. But I'm not satisfied. Does that make sense? I'm not satisfied. I still want more. I still want to grow. I know a lot of people at my age start winding down, actually, and I can't imagine winding down. That's not something that I want to do. I saw, the Masters is on this week, and it's kind of given me the bug to get my ass golfing again. I was a very avid golfer for a very long time. I golfed in high school for the golf team, and, just loved the game. And so to start it off, you can always come to the Masters if you were a past champion, and the old guys will come in their 60s, 70s, 80s. Some play in their 50s, and they rarely make the cut. I believe Freddie Couples, he was doing well until last couple of holes, and it fell apart on him yesterday. But I'd love to have seen Freddie Couples make the cut. But the old guys usually don't play any rounds now, but they hit a drive off the first tee, and you had three really of the greatest of all time to kick the Masters off yesterday. And, Jack Nicklaus is 86, 85, 86, and he looked old. Like really, really old. Tom Watson was like 10 years younger, and Tom for his age, being in the mid 70s, really looked good and still agile. And Gary Player was 4 years older than Jack Nicklaus. Gary Player was there too, and 90 years old. And he hit a drive, and gave this, and just, the difference between him at 90 and Jack. And I love Jack Nicklaus, the greatest of all time ever. Tiger's number two, but Jack Nicklaus is still number one all time. But look at him throughout his life. He always had a little pudgy gut. Years ago, golfers used to smoke. Even during the golf tournaments, they would smoke, and they would show them smoking on TV because that's what people did back then. And then, they'd throw it to the side of the fringe and go do their putting, and then pick up their cigarette and go to the next tee, you know? Crazy, crazy. You know what else? I'll just slide this in quick that I noticed that it's so different in Arizona where we're at in the East Valley. So that's, Phoenix down to Queen Creek where I'm at in Santan Valley, and the Chandler and Gilbert and the places in between. You just don't see people are very much more health conscious. You have more people that give a shit about their health and how they look, and you don't see a lot of people smoking. In fact, it's really, really rare. And in 2 days now, and well, barely a full 24 hours of me being in Ohio, I have seen more people smoke in the last 24 hours than I've seen in the last 6 months in Arizona. So, it's still a thing out there. But anyways, my whole point was that we need to do what we can. I want to live a very long life. I hope that I can live into my 70s, 80s, even 90s. I hope that I can live to be in my 90s. That's my goal, is like 95. And a lot of you don't know who Jack LaLanne is, but you can look him up. He was a famous fitness guru. I want to be like Jack LaLanne, bouncing around and healthy and have muscle when I'm in my 90s. That's really what I want to be able to do and what my goal is at this point. So even though right now part of my goal is to be jacked and have muscle, and I'm doing pretty good for my age. Am I I'm in the top 1%. Am I best? Are there other guys that are 57, 58, 59 years old that might be in contest condition and be better than me right now? Absolutely. But I don't shit on those people like other people do. And most good people just don't generally do that. The people that do that are the people that aren't in that 1%. I usually find that people that are doing as well or better than me don't shit on me. It's the people that are not doing as well as me that take the shots and try to, say shit. And it is what it is. You know what I mean? Did I see the walk-off grand slam in the actual? Yes. Yes, when I got up this morning, one of the things that I did, I usually turn on PBD podcast, right? But in Arizona, the PBD podcast is on. Here at that time when I got up, it wasn't on yet because I'm on the same timeline that they are now. So we had, instead of having a podcast on like I normally do, we had Sports Center on, and I saw that walk off grand slam home run. What a cool thing. And, big sports fan. I love sports. We talk about sports on here too, because to me, sports is life. There's a lot of things that you learn and how to handle situations. And in sports and adversity are ways to handle things in life. And that's always been that way for me. That's why sports are so important for me, is because I relate it to life so much. And a lot of other people do, but there are people that don't. It is what it is. It is what it is. So, um, a couple of things I wanted to get to, besides me just talking about the trip and the secret, which has been great. I didn't even have that written down to talk about, but I am glad that we were able to do that, because it's obviously something that's been on my mind for me to be able to share about that in that way, like that. But I do recommend it. Find it on YouTube or wherever. Pay the $3.99, $4.99. At least watch it once. If you want to be challenged, watch or listen to it every day for 30 days. And when I did listen to it every day for 30 days, It's an hour and a half long. I didn't listen to it completely through when I was listening to it. I might listen to 30 minutes in the morning, another 30 minutes throughout the day, and then 30 minutes on the ride home or whatever you do to break it up to get it in. That's kind of what I did to be able to do that. So just throwing that out there for somebody. You want a little bit of a life change up here. Because I've also done 75 hard, Andy Frisella's 75 hard, and I think that's great for discipline and shit too. It's that I did that a couple of years ago at 55, and it was excellent. I'm glad that I did it, and I'd like to do it again. Maybe I'll do it again when I'm 60, or maybe before then. I don't know. That would be kind of cool to do when you're 60 years old. Do the 75 hard. But this is more of a mental thing that I'm talking about, a mental change. And not that there's not a mental change in the 75 hard, but I'm really talking about how you focus and think about things, what your thoughts are, how your feelings are, and how you process those feelings. Because I'm I'm and I'm talking about feelings like, number one, feeling grateful. When you are grateful, you are generally going to be a more pleasant person. You're just because you are grateful for life and the day that you've been given, and to be able to go out in the world and do what you do. So, yeah, gratitude is probably the greatest feeling. And usually, when we are thinking something negative, and if we want to change that, that would be something else that I would recommend is start with something, even the smallest thing, anything you can think of that you can say that you are grateful for. And maybe build a small list of things that you're grateful for. And if you're having difficulty or struggling, that might be something you start to do every day to start your day off better, is to, just take a few minutes and focus. Um, Almost meditate a little bit about gratitude and where you're at. And, you may not be where you want to be yet, but what you have, somebody else probably doesn't have and would be grateful to have what you have. And here we are bitching because as Americans, we are spoiled as fuck. Okay. I'm just going to put it out there. We are spoiled. We have American. Uh, uh, just as being an American, you have privilege. I'm not talking about white privilege. I think that's all bullshit. But you want to talk about a serious privilege? We have that as Americans. We have American privilege, and we don't acknowledge that enough. And we're all given that American privilege and opportunity. And everybody's path isn't the same. Some may be harder than others. That may be true, but you still have a path. You still have a path if you want to take it and put in the work. And if you just want to be mad that somebody else has an easier path than you, you're never going to fucking make it. You're just going to whine and bitch and sit in your own shit and stew on your own shit. And that's just not a way I want to be, or a way that I want to live. So, the Masters, like I just said, the Masters, just mentioned real quickly that I used to just um, love golf, and I'm getting that feeling back now. It was uh, yesterday just watching it, and some of the players, because some of these young guys, as I was following the guys some years ago, and you had these guys that were in their early 20s. Well, now those guys are in their, you know, 30s, and even pushing close to 40 now. And to see them as not just young men, but older men, seasoned men, veteran men. Um, it's just neat to have seen them grow up, and uh, just the adversity that you have on a golf course. And even people that shoot the best scores are often maybe out in the behind a tree at some point, and they make some shot to get out of the tree. They don't think they're going to score well on the hole. And then all of a sudden they stake one within 3 feet of the pin, or they just get it on the green and they make a long putt that's 25 feet, which is so hard to do, but they make it. And you get that exhilarating feeling. And again, just like life, we don't, it's not a straight line and you're not always going to feel, you know, positive, but you can work on that by feeling grateful. So just throwing that last in there with the Masters because it's making me want to see how that goes. News wise, things I wanted to talk about. Trump's been ripping on NATO, and I don't really blame him for ripping on NATO. I have issues with NATO. I believe that we have these bases there and we should be allowed to use our bases. If these countries don't want to, help us in a manpower way, in an intelligence way, okay. Okay, I don't like that, but okay, um, maybe we don't need to provide security for you either. Maybe you can start providing your own security and start spending your own money for your countries that have these great benefits and health insurance that you think you don't pay for. No, Americans are paying for that health insurance. You have the money for it because you're not paying for your security. We are. And so, what my thing is with NATO, especially where I draw the line is you're telling us that we can't use our bases in your country? Okay, pull up stakes. Why are we even there then? Why are we even there? If we can't use those bases when it's time for our needs, if they have a need and they have a security need, we're supposed to show up for them. We're supposed to be there for them. But when we're defending our own, what we think is our own need, and you can disagree with it. Again, you don't have to participate, but to literally stop us from using a base and something that we built up to protect your ass. Well, I think Trump has every right to be angry about that and what NATO has done. And, I wasn't even happy with the deal that Trump has made, honestly, that he was put pressure on in his first term, and now he's doing it again. He's put pressure on NATO countries to start contributing what they're legally supposed to contribute. None of them do it except the United States. So we are NATO. We're the ones ponying up, over 3%. They're not even close to 3%. Okay. In some cases, they're barely even 1% of their GDP for this. So look, why should we pay for that? I just don't think that we I just don't think that we should. So I believe that Trump has every right to be pissed. We should be pissed as Americans, and that's where I draw the line. Yeah, you're right, Mike. Our little daycare. Yeah, we could protect them. But again, why is it when we're protecting our own interest that the world gets all upset? When Ukraine needs help, we're supposed to help Ukraine, right? Well, that's really a Europe problem more than it was a US problem, right? And you're talking about a country that's also corrupt. You're talking about a country that I don't know why people don't realize it, but their leader, Zelensky, is a dictator and acts like a dictator. They were supposed to have elections, right? And they haven't because of the war. So, and the longer the war goes on, the less chance there are is, or the longer they can put off having elections. And because everybody said that he would probably lose. If they were to have elections today, he would probably lose. So he's trying to stay in power by having more war. And so when we can't get an agreement, because that's something Trump tried to do, and you can shit on Trump for, oh, he said he would end it on day one, and he hasn't ended it. But you can't say the guy didn't try and didn't try harder than Biden tried. Biden didn't try. He didn't. And same thing with Obama. Obama drawing red lines in the sand, and the countries violate the red line, and nothing happens to them. So we have somebody that has some balls in there now and is not playing those games. And I do appreciate that about Trump. Is to me, that is the America first and America first. Uh, what do I want to say? Value that I support in the lens that I look through. I really look through. What are we getting out of it? What is it? What is it for our country? And I love this country, and but I don't always agree with the government. Hey, Dear, can you do me a favor and get me another drink out of there? Yeah. No. That's nutrition. She's offering me protein, but she knows what to do. She knows what to do. But I ran out, and my throat's gonna be. I can already tell now. Coke Zero. Hey, Coke, if you want to be a sponsor, I don't know. Nobody's gonna sponsor me. Nobody wants to do that. There we go. And I only mean that in the fact that I would never, not that I'd never take a sponsor. Yeah, like not yet, but I will never let anyone dictate what I do, what I say, and where I go. I just refuse to do that. I didn't do that when I was on the radio before, and it put me in a unique position because sometimes I did go against things that the management of the radio station wanted, or was hoping that I would do, and they couldn't control me. And how that all ended was on me. It was all public, it was in the newspapers, it was totally on me. But they definitely used that at that time as an excuse to kind of for us to separate ways too. But I take responsibility for that, because if you don't take responsibility for whatever's going on in your life, you can't change it. You have to be able to say that it's on you so that you are able to change it, that you're able to do something about it. So that's kind of that. Just thought I'd throw that out there. So we're talking about NATO, and I'm just really, we should be able to do what we think we need to do. I've been listening a lot to Dave Smith. Dave Smith is, I don't believe he's an anti-Semite. I've listened to whole episodes of him talking, and so I've listened to him. He's been on Joe Rogan for a number of hours. Now I don't agree with a good amount of what Dave Smith says, but in the way that he says it, what's great is, as I've seen others done, I could actually sit down and have a conversation with him. He's not a batshit crazy liberal. And in fact, I don't even know if I don't believe he's a Democrat, and I don't know how he's registered. I think he was, maybe like some people were hoping for certain things from Trump, and they're not getting it. Some of us are getting those things. For some of us, it may be mixed. I'm really not happy with Trump going after, uh, and I haven't read the whole story or read the whole tweet. I'm sorry, the truth, that because he did it on Truth Social, where he went after Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and I believe a couple other people. Um, I'm not in the camp with Candace Owens when it's where she's basically in the fuck Trump camp now. I am not in that camp. I am still a Trump supporter, but I have different views than a lot of people have, when it comes to Israel and when it comes to Gaza and the Palestinians and the war in Iran. I'm just at a different place than others are. And I'm also not afraid to say when I've been wrong, and I've done that in the past. I originally supported, if you go back to the original Iraq war, I supported that. I supported the war in Afghanistan. And what I didn't support was spending billions and billions and billions and the nation rebuild that was tried, that we were just throwing money to the wind. We're basically just handing pallets of cash over to, in a lot of cases, people that didn't like us. And we do that. Okay. We've done that before. We did that when Iraq and Iran were fighting years ago, and they had about a decade of war. We backed Iraq, and then we ended up going and invading Iraq. So, we're we make our own beds sometimes, and we got to take responsibility as Americans for the shit that we do sometimes. Just pointing the finger at other countries doesn't fly with me. It just doesn't. We can't change those things. We can change things if we take responsibility for them, if we do those kinds of things. So anyways, I brought up Dave Smith just because I'm listening to some of the things he said, and you know as and he made some really, really good points when it came to Gaza and the Palestinians, and a two-state solution that's talked about, because that has a lot to do with what's going on with Iran, and because of uh, Israel. That like I said, he makes some really, really good points. Uh, we haven't tried certain things. We haven't tried the two-state solution, and people have certain feelings about that, and I have certain feelings about that. And I've always kind of been in the camp that the Islamic radicals that control those countries and those areas, I've always kind of believed that they cross a line, that they really do not want or believe, and I start with that premise, Israel to exist or us, that they really want us eliminated. So I didn't think we wanted them eliminated, that we were trying to eliminate them all, their culture or the people. I didn't think we were trying to do that. Um, Maybe some people, it feels like we are doing that right now. And I get that. And like I said, I was able to listen to somebody who had a different opinion than me and listen to it in a productive way, because all too often it is not done in a productive way. It's just not. And it's a shame that it's not, because we're not talking anymore as a country. We're just not talking. And I'm like the rest of you. I'm on one side and I'm mad at the other side. And I think they're traitors. They think we're pedophile supporters. That's, what they tell us, anyways. And it's just bullshit. And that kind of stuff just irritates. It does irritate. I'm sure we irritate them. It's seen, but it's like, can you come up with something original? At least if you're going to make a comment about me, make it a true comment, because there are things that are true that you could say that would also be a slam, and I'd have to go, yeah, you're not wrong. That's a true thing. So that's kind of, where I'm at with the war and the things that are going on. I'm listening to both sides, and I'm really not in the camp of uh, with Trump pointing the finger at some of these people, and people that were supporting him and now are just saying where they're at now. I would rather know where somebody is rather than lie about it. And these people, Tucker and Kansas and others, they're sharing. They're talking about where they are now. And there's been a shift. And there's issues going on in both parties. Both parties have issue. It's just not us. It's just not us conservatives. The Democrats have their own serious problems and fights going on how that party is going to be going forward in the future, about who's going to control it and what are the specific narratives going to be that are promoted, right? So, um, but I think it's important to not just dismiss some of these people just because they may have a portion of a view that you don't share. But all too often I find people are giving their opinion, and they're just hearing snippets of what other people said. They're not listening to the whole thing. And as I've heard people talk negatively about Dave Smith, I'm one that can say, well, you know, I've watched him too, and I watched the whole 2 hours or whatever it was of him being interviewed or on his own podcast and stuff. Mostly it's interviews with others that he's talking. I saw watch the one with him with Tucker Carlson, watch the one with him with Joe Rogan. Both of them have been recently. Um, that I'm actually listening to the whole thing, not what somebody else's opinion is of it. The whole thing to form my own opinion, that there's nothing between him speaking in my ears, nobody giving me their point about him, about Dave, and as people do that, because that's what I get, on my posts and things that I put on Instagram and TikTok, both of those especially, is people that want to do that kind of thing, that they want to just dismiss certain things. They say things about, Candace, that I just know from listening to them. They heard those talking points from some talking head on, TV or a podcast. That's where they heard it, but they didn't hear it from the person's own mouth. Where I'm listening to what the person is actually saying, and there's nothing in between me and them, and I can form my own opinion about it. So that's all I'm suggesting is, keeping a more open mind about this. And, there are some people that aren't totally batshit crazy on the other side. Uh, it's just very few right now. It's very few, very, very hard to have a discussion about, the country and what's going on. And that plays another role as far as what we're talking about, these issues and the issues that we're avoiding. When's the last time we talked about education? You know, we have a system that's not being productive right now, but we're not talking about it at all. That used to be part of the fight at midterms. That used to be part of the fight for a president is, what they were going to do for education. And right now, they're not having that conversation. It doesn't really look like a lot of anybody else is having a conversation either. And, those are things that I deeply, deeply care about. I do care that people have the ability to create and start their own businesses and to sell or offer things that people want, need, and desire. That's what you actually do. And, that's how it should be. Offer what people want, need, and desire, and you'll be on your way. Solve somebody's problem. It's a big part of it, right? Last up I'm gonna wrap up with is talk about the Strait of Hormuz recent, or here at the end, and just give my 2 cents. I wasn't happy. I was one of those that wasn't happy that there was this supposed ceasefire. It's not like either side has kept the ceasefire, really. Uh, we have Israel firing on uh, Libya, and people saying, well, they it's okay that they did that because they're targeting Hezbollah. Well, there are other people that are getting hit in those targets that, it makes it an issue. The fact that they're still, launching and trying to take territory makes it hard for the negotiations with Iran for the president. And the president has made demands about having that strait open as he's continued these negotiations for the deadline that he set a couple weeks from now. I wasn't happy about that. I really, because I don't think that the Iranians that are in charge, that they give two fucks about that shit. They do not care. They care about, just having control of their own country. And look, I mean, I get that to an extent. That's a thing, and it should be everybody's thing, and it should be our thing. But uh, I I didn't want to see this happen, and now that Trump said that the strait was going to be open, and it really hasn't been open since he made this deal. Why are you still fucking around, dude? Why you had this 2 week deadline that you set, but why not right now? Why not? Look, they violated it, and they're not. really sticking to the talking points or the things that you want, that we want as a country for this to end. So what are we doing there? Why are we still fucking around? You know, are we trying to just give ourselves some more time to, get certain things in place? Maybe, maybe. I do know we're using a lot of our stockpile of our military weapons and putting a big dent in it. Those are going to need to be replaced, right? It's going to need to be replaced. So, um, the Strait of Hormuz and oil is where the whole thing is at. And if they are not opening up the strait as the Trump administration thought that it was told that they would do as a part of this preliminary deal. Yeah, what about the gays of Hormuz? Yeah, we had that joke, Mike. That was funny. But yeah, save the gays of Hormuz, save the straits too. We're for saving everybody, for sure. That's a good one. Because that was funny that somebody thought of that. But look, I Trump needs to do whatever he needs to do to get control of that state or strait, and that's what I thought we were doing some of this for, was not only to stop their nuclear capabilities, but also to stop their military ability to target, right, to target these countries that are around there, or targeting the world for energy, and because they have a control of a pretty good chunk of it, that's going through there. Yeah, that's not what I'm expecting. I'm expecting that they not have control, and not just that the straits are open, but that we have a significant say, or in the matter of how that's handled going forward. But the fact that Trump made the ceasefire deal and this stuff isn't being done, well, you know what? If you're violating the agreement, then the agreement isn't valid. And instead of dicking around and waiting 2 weeks, there's no reason to wait 2 weeks unless you absolutely believe they are abiding by the you're abiding by what they said needs to be done. But if you're not, if they're not, then we need to do what we have to do. And so I just support getting that done, and get this stuff over with strength and power, and go from there. When this gets solved, all the world's problems are not going to be solved. That's not going to happen. And maybe we won't get the positive outcome that we were hoping for. Maybe it's a draw. Maybe nobody wins. I don't know, but I am curious to see how things go forward, but it's not something I have control of. It's not something you have control of. We have control of the things that we do. So let's do that right now. Let's have a great weekend. Let's, have a good, life, day. Let's spend our time doing positive things. And I spend my Saturdays doing fun shit, working out, spending it with friends, going somewhere, enjoying some activity, and that activity is not protesting. That you're not going to see me at a No Kings rally. And if you do, believe me, I have an army with me. I wouldn't come without one. All right, guys, that's it for this Friday. You know, um, appreciate it. Hit that button, that follow button for me, for much more to come. We got another show to do here from the hotel on Monday, and then we'll be back on the studio on Wednesday. God bless. This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy.